have just a casual interest in motor racing, most people are well aware of the phenomenal success of Paul Tracy and Scott Goodyear on the Indycar series. Well, this week we're going to meet another young Canadian driver who also hopes that someday he too will be a household name in Canadian motor racing.
Every time I think about Greg, I think about how much of a catalyst the guy was.
Look at this. Look at Greg sliding that car off of there.
After yellow, little Al was up at the front of the pack. Moore was all the way at the back of the pack and is closed up and is sitting on his back end now.
Greg Moore, that was exciting.
Yeah, it was. We'd have got the white flag when we got the checker there. I think I would have had him into one, but, it's a good job for my guys,
Jeff did it so nice and so smooth, he looked like he was a 10-year experienced driver.
Well, at least I can still carry him.
Yeah, it didn't fall over.
No.
The person that maybe he relates most to was another Canadian, Gilles Villeneuve. Look at the stats. Gilles didn't win a championship, won a few races, but people still talk about him in these revered tones. Greg was the same. Watch what he did with a racing car. We all drove those crazy cars. They bit hard, and he drove them with such abandon and such flair that I think that's one of the reasons he was so loved by the fans, by his fellow competitors.
Hey, I was a little too bad for him. Could have been a good player's one too, but most importantly is I won.
Indeed, and what a way to start a championship chase. You only got, 19 more to go.
Exactly.
Sure, kind of upright.
Look at that. Yeah. Well, I knew of Greg long before his IndyCar career, because the parallels of my career and his career the early stages of it were very similar, because the glasses, I wore glasses like that and he wore the same glasses. When I was 16, I was won the Canadian Formula Ford Championship, and I started hearing about him just when he was finished karts, and this was in about 91. I think he started racing Formula Fords in Ontario. And there's some newspaper articles said, oh, there's a kid racing out at Motorsport, and he wears glasses like Paul Tracy, and he's tearing up the track out there. So I kind of got to hear a lot of buzz about him, Formula Fords, and then Formula 2000. He won the championship, and then did kind of the same trajectory as me. Formula Ford, Formula 2000, then a little bit of Atlantic, and then Indy Lights.
Indy Lights, I think, is a phenomenal arena. I think if you look in the paddock area here, there's 10 young lions that all want to be in Indy cars. And
pretty surprised. His father's an old friend of mine and came to me 3 years ago and told me his son was moving up from go-karts to cars and how good he was. And
so I knew him before he got to Indy cars, and he would come to me as a kid and ask for advice when he was in Indy Lights, and I was racing Indy cars at that time, and he would just ask how the track is, and they didn't have any English-speaking Canadians in that program. It was very pro-Quebec deal. So when he got into that program, that was a pretty big deal. And I was actually looking to get into that deal if it was possible. Before I was with Penske, with Marlboro, and ultimately ended up there for my championship years. So there's a lot of similarities between his career and my career, parallels.
It can be a dangerous sport. Is there any time for dad/manager to worry about
every time he sits in the car.
Back to Speed Week. The streets of Long Beach also hosted round 3 of the Firestone Indy Lights Series, where one driver is on a hot streak.
Indy Lights current points leader Greg Moore earned his second pole of the season to lead the 25-car field. Moore stretched out into a comfortable lead, leaving behind the battle for second, third, and fourth. Bourbonnais' onboard nose cam gave us this wild ride just 5 laps from the checker, hitting hard into the tires. He was okay, but is now 13th in the points. Moore's flag-to-flag win gives him a Long Beach trophy to go along with those from Miami and Phoenix, and a 20-point lead over Robbie Buell. The drop of the green flag, pole sitter Robbie Buell jumped to the lead. As the field reached turn 1, Enrique Contreras made wheel-to-wheel contact with David De Silva, sending Contreras airborne and side over side into the outside wall. When they finally restarted, Buell opened up a 5-car length lead over Greg Moore. All cars made it safely through turn 1. Buell's flag-to-flag victory ended the 5-race winning streak of Moore, who finished second. Buell's win marked the 3rd of his career, and by capturing the victory in front of his hometown crowd, Buell now trails Moore by 29 points. It has been, rightfully so, centered on young Canadian Greg Moore, who started the season with a record 5 consecutive victories, and Robbie Buell, Mr. Consistency, whose victory in the last event in Detroit kept him in contact for the series title. Line up 2 by 2. When they clear the bridge about 100 yards upstream from Gordon Ensing, they expect to see the green flag. That's what was said at the drivers' meeting. The jump is to Greg Moore, and the green flag flies at Portland. The first big test as they scramble behind Moore. He's up nearly 9 seconds over Robbie Buell. You alluded to the idea earlier in the show that indeed his momentum wouldn't be broken coming off Detroit. Apparently that is indeed the case. There's Buell. Look at the space back to him. Under acceleration, there is the race leader, Greg Moore. A great break for him, Jan Beekes. 2 back markers between he and second place Robbie Buell. Into the final lap. A bid for a wire-to-wire victory, and 6 out of 7 for Greg Moore this year. Day for Robbie Buell at Portland, trying desperately to maintain contact in the championship with this man, Greg Moore. But what a driver he's turning out to be. And Greg Moore on the straightaway charges the line, fist in the air before he gets the double checkered flag. He has won at Portland. And a very sporting move by the man who's just won the race as Greg Moore picks up his stiffest rival of 1995, Robbie Buell, who was out of the race right at the end.
Well, after the brief interruption in Detroit in the last event, here he is back in victory circle once again. Greg, everybody had problems today, including your rival Robbie Buell. You gave him graciously a lift back to the pits. It looked to be almost a perfect run for you on a track where you put in so many thousands of test miles.
Well, that's exactly it. You know, we've tested well here. I've done many, many years of go-karting here, and, you know, it's a whole testament to the Players Limited Forsyth team. They just did such a great job. You know, Steve Chalice, Kent and Brody, my 2 mechanics, you know, they just did an unreal job. And, you know, I think we're going to carry this momentum into Toronto, where I think we can get a win for the hometown fans.
And he's taken another giant step toward the championship. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
There's the final turn. Turn 4 onto the very, very long front stretch. Nice alignment on the front of the field. Zanardi to the inside, Bass to the out. Teammates will bring them toward the green flag. And here we go. And Zanardi jumps way out in front as everybody spreads out. DeFerrin down low. So is Ribeiro. Ribeiro comes into second place around Vassar. Safely through turn 1 onto the backstretch. The crowd goes nuts as Ribeiro takes the lead, but here comes Zanardi back to challenge. He ducks in behind him as he comes across the line. Down through the gears, heavy on the brakes into turn 1.
And he's got him. He's going back at it. And look at Greg Moore. He's trying to get around Vassar.
Oh, look at the other battle. Greg Moore to the outside of Vassar. Moore to third for the moment. But maybe only for the moment.
Great racing. Look how the field's all backed up behind him, and Moore's found the line.
Look at that.
Right around the outside.
Outside pass, around Ribeiro, Moore to second behind Zanardi.
You know, I talked to Moore after the warm-up this morning. These guys are very confident. Their car feels great. He says he's got no problems. The car's handling fabulously. He's pumped up.
Hop around there. He builds up to over 200 miles an hour down the front stretch. Back watching the front of the field now. Zanardi, Greg Moore. Front of the order, Zanardi, Moore, Ribeiro, DeFerrin, Jimmy Vassar, the top 5. Fight for the lead here. As Zanardi gets caught up on the slower traffic, that's Marco Greco as they split around. But still Zanardi with a better line into the corner. Watch how Moore tends to come off of this corner, though. He lets the car come all the way up. Look at that.
To my way of thinking, that's a better line. You don't scrub as much off the tires. You don't use them up as much. and you let the car have its head. Just let it be free. Let it go.
There's Rahal, all four of them right together. The leader, as he comes moving inside of Jimmy Vasser. Remember, Vasser came into this race as the points leader. Look at this, though. Show you how fast Greg Moore is going, how close he's been to the wall all day. How's that for close?
Just he left that tire.
And it may have ended it for him.
Yeah, he's slowing
Moore
down.
slows. Ribeiro takes the lead. This brings out a yellow. Moore cannot make it all the way around to his pit, and that's going to close the whole thing up. The yellow comes out for the leader of the race, Moore. Let's go to Gary Gerald.
Well, the crew down here, disconsolate, heading in different directions, wondering if their man will be in here or not. Jerry Forsyth just threw his stopwatch down on the concrete here. The rest of the crew just so emotional because they have a monitor. They saw the replay of the incident, and now we see on one of the world feeds down here his car cruising to a stop. Such bitter disappointment. Well, here's Greg with us, Jack. Greg, we saw the contact on the replay with the wheel against the wall, but that wasn't what put you out of the race, I understand.
No, not at all. The car was perfect after that. I mean, the car has been great all day. Followed Alex around for a while, but you know, I think that we had this race under the in the bag, but you know, something happened in the motor, it broke, and I just don't know what it is yet, but we'll find out soon. And you know, I guess we'll go to Australia. We've had 2 really good races in a row, and I think we'll have another one in Australia.
Well, moral victories only go so far. How much does this hurt your psyche right now?
It doesn't hurt my psyche. It very much disappoints me and the team. I mean, they didn't win last year with Forsyth Racing, and you know, players won a lot of races, and I think that we can win some for them this year, but I guess not this one.
Thanks, Greg.
Thank you.
I don't think he has any idea how great those 2 races were for him. They're getting ready to come back to green flag. It is Ribeiro, followed by Gordon, followed by Unser Jr., and
he loved doing that. He loved just hanging the thing out on the edge more than anybody I've ever seen. And it was just, from the first time I watched him, I was doing DTM, sitting watching him with Norbert Haug in Germany, watching you guys go around. I'm like, who is this kid? He loved to hang the thing right out on the edge.
Well, he was the guy that he loved the outside.
Yep.
He'd be on the outside of the oval in the worst, put yourself in the worst possible position. You know, that's like the place, like you put yourself in a bad position when you're on the outside. And he loved being out there.
look at him as he sits right behind Al Unser Jr. as we take a look down from the Honda Helicam. Now, when we started this segment after yellow, little Al was up at the front of the pack. Moore was all the way at the back of the pack and is closed up and is sitting on his back end now.
You know, if people look at Greg Moore, he looks like he's about 16 years old. And again, like I said earlier, nobody thought he was going to be this good. He's going to become, and my prediction is right, a real great race driver, somewhat like we had Villeneuve last year.
Checking in with Tony Brunetti, who is in radio contact with Greg Moore. They're delighted with the way the car has handled all afternoon. The first time we checked earlier, they said it was absolutely perfect. Just got another thumbs up. They're good on fuel. They want to get to the podium.
Did you see the pass that Greg Moore just did on Vasser? There's Vasser right there. Greg just passed him. Just did it so nice and so smooth. He looked like he was a 10-year experienced driver.
Second place is Emerson Fittipaldi. Remember, that's where he was going to the closing laps last year and ended up the winner, Jackaroo. Now this battle between Greg Moore and Al Unser Jr. as Greg Moore makes the move. Greg Moore, I guess, whoa.
Blue and white.
Two slower cars separate them. And Greg Moore is proving he wants that position as he tries to trap him coming off the corner. And Greg Moore grabs third place away from Little Al.
Well, when Moore passed Fittipaldi there, he was so close to him, it looked like they almost touched.
195 laps complete. Look at Moore. Unbelievable. Around Emo. And Moore into second. He started 13th, and now he's looking for Michael. But time is running out.
And Greg, from 13th to a podium finish at second, but the sensation was those late race passes. Do you ever scare yourself out there?
No, I one time actually when I got inside Junior, then I just powered straight through and almost pushed up into the wall the last boat. I think it was about lap 190 when I first got by Junior. Got a bit of a scare there, but you know, the whole players team we're ecstatic. I mean, I don't know what to say. I'm just so happy.
You lost 5th gear during this event, but apparently it was of no consequence.
Well, I guess not. You know, apparently we turned the fastest race lap, and you know, we still finished second. I think we could have caught Mikey if we had a few more laps, but you know, it's my best finish, the team's best finish this year, and I couldn't be any happier.
Well, you talk about rising stars. You're looking at one. Paul?
Reconnu Greg Moore qui connaît un très bon début quand même à titre de recrue en série Indy cette année. Hello Greg, how are you today?
Very well, how are you?
Tell us about your first season in Indycar. It looks good so far? Well, as a rookie actually.
As a rookie, it's been a good season so far. We've been in a position to win a couple races, but we haven't because of mechanical failures. But we're going to my favorite track in the world in Portland, and I think we got a real good chance of winning that one for the players team.
Now, were you approached by any Formula One team so far?
Not approached by any Formula One.
Not true. Are you
team.
sure about that?
completely sure about that. No, we just came here. It was an off weekend for us. Normally the Montreal race is the same weekend as our Detroit Grand Prix, so I had a chance to come up here on players' behalf and do some autographs and meet all the fans.
Would you like to join the Formula One?
Maybe one day, you know, 6-7 years down the road, but right now I'm happy to be where I am with players, and I want to win the IndyCar Championship, win a bunch of races first.
Hi, I'm Paul Newman. You want to know why I'm here? I feel the need for speed.
Welcome to the Milwaukee Mile, America's oldest major speedway, where Paul Tracy and Penske Racing have already gone into the record books with the fastest lap of a 1-mile oval in PPG Kart World Series history.
Steve Chalice is the man who just saw Greg Moore's car fire up. You're going to make the engineering calls today. First of all, what do you expect for handling and, of course, fuel strategy?
Well, I think everybody's going to try and make it a 2-stop race if they can. We're going to need the yellows right about at the right time, so we'll see. It could turn into 3, but the track's been pretty consistent, so we're hoping that it's going to be much like it was yesterday. If not, we'll be making some changes during the race.
94 years, auto racing at the Wisconsin State Fairgrounds, tradition American open-wheeled racing. Coming down onto the front stretch, the green flag is up, it waves, and we are underway. Paul Tracy leads into turn 1. For the lead, Greg Moore goes underneath Paul Tracy into 1, where he wasn't handling him before. I wonder if he got him by surprise or just got that great run off of 4 that you talked about, Danny.
I would imagine he got a good run off of 4, probably was aided a little bit by traffic.
And Michael Andretti goes underneath Al Unser Jr. for 6th. Greg Moore is in the pits. Jan is there.
Well, we'll see if he can do any better than that 9.9 he did last time. That was a killer stop. They're going to try and get all the fuel in case they could make it to the end. It all depends on how much fuel they get. Whoa, something's not right. Oh, no, he's going to... Oh, my God, there's contact between Bobby Rahal and Greg Moore, and at first he couldn't get it into gear. 12.03 seconds. Meanwhile, Tracy is out of here. It was a 9.7 stop for Tracy. The Penske team has delivered again, and once again, he's back in the lead.
For about Moore's situation, Jan Bikas.
Yes, the crew is looking very nervous. They are radioing to Greg Moore saying, you've got to turn down the fuel. They are going to try and make it to the end, but they know that's going to possibly put him in the clutches of Andretti.
If Greg Moore can come through to win, he will become the youngest winner in PPG Kart World Series history. As you see, Neil Mickelride and the crew doing their sums, talking to their men, trying to close up on Moore. Only 22 starts in Moore's resume. Could this be the day for Greg Moore and the players team from Canada? I don't think Michael has enough time. Moore thinks he hasn't won, and with his fist in the air, he takes the checkered flag and resets the record as youngest winner of a PPG Kart World Series event. Mario Andretti on the wall can only get on the radio and say, nice try. Neil Mickelride and the crew, they will have a celebration tonight. What a breakthrough for the Canadian Greg Moore.
There's pandemonium down here. Greg Moore, you've just realized a dream.
Yeah, it's about time. You know, we've been real close a few times, but I'm just so happy. I mean, everyone on my team did a great job, and we had about probably a cup full of fuel left there. You know, Steve Chalice and Alex Turman's my 2 engineers. They did just a great job. I'm just so happy.
The youngest now winner in this type of racing in kart history. The feeling that you have, tell me about those last few laps, because I know you knew that Michael Andretti in that black and white number 6 was right there.
Yeah, I knew Mikey was back there, but I knew I was a little bit faster than him. It was just a question of that slower traffic in front, but we got through it okay, and It's our first win, and I just can't. I'm so happy.
Were you able, did you have to conserve fuel, and when did they tell you you were going to be okay? How late to go?
About 12 laps to go, they told me I was okay, and I was actually lifting down from about pitch straight down to the turn one, and it just paid off, and we did a great job all weekend.
In traffic all day long, any close calls for you? Any major concerns?
There was a couple of close calls, but, you know, we got it all, and I'm just so pleased. All my guys, they deserve this.
All of Canada, all of North America saluting you right now, the youngest ever. Kick off the celebration, pal.
Thanks a lot, bud.
Of the Detroit River. Over here is Canada, where the Stanley Cup was invented. Over here is America, where the Cup resides after the Red Wings went 4-0 in the NHL Finals. If American racing drivers are going to keep the PPG Cup, they'd better draw their line in the sand today, here at the Raceway on Belle Isle in Round 8 of the PPG Kart World Series. But it won't be easy. The field is lined up side by side on a very narrow racetrack. Gilles de Ferran in blue and white alongside Scott Pruitt. The green flag waves were underway.
The guy that has gone the longest without a stop, Greg Moore, remember, of the leaders, and this caution is very advantageous.
We're past the halfway mark in this race.
Well, Hero's certainly not holding up. He's not holding up.
Race leader Greg Moore in the blue and white car, followed by Gilles de Ferran in the predominantly red, white, and blue machine. Roberto Moreno in red runs third. Through turns 10 and 11. Who have yet to produce a race victory between them for car owner Bruce McCaw. Could they go 1 and 2 today for Pac West? Greg Moore, tied for fourth place with Scott Pruitt, is running third. Scott Pruitt is out. Mauricio Gugelmin leads them across the start-finish stripe. 2 laps to go. Gugelmin's best finish, a second place, and he's done it several times. White flag for the Pac West teammates, Gugelmin and Blundell. Final lap of the Detroit Grand Prix. On to the Strand. How much throttle can... And Gugelmin slows. Blundell bursts into the lead as his teammate slows out of fuel. And now Greg Moore has a decision to make. Blundell in the middle of the racetrack, defensive position. Michael Andretti doing the same in what is now third place. And Blundell slows. Moore is in the lead. Blundell is out of fuel. And it has all come apart for the Pac West teammates. Victory. Second straight win for Greg Moore. Michael Andretti second. Gilles de Ferran unofficially third. And Jimmy Vasser a near thing in fourth.
Well, Greg Moore, congratulations. You've gotten the congratulations from Mercedes, from your dad. What did your dad tell you?
Oh, my dad just said, good job. You know, it's, you know, this is the team to win this one. I mean, we stretched it out on the, it was Steve Chalice's call to leave the Firestones on for, you know, I think we left them on for, you know, over half the race there, and I think that's really what won us the race, was the pit position there.
Now, what about near the end? Blundell and Gugelmin in front of you. What was the conversations back and forth on pit road with your team?
2 laps from the end, they said, well, if you get a possibility, you know, a good chance to pass, you better do it, because we think they might be able to go. And then I saw Maurizio bobble, and then down the end of the back I saw Mark, and I thought, wow, I just can't believe this is unbelievable.
At 22 years old, we've said you're the youngest winner, and now a Canadian that wins, now so much on your shoulders. I mean, can it stop? I mean, where does this all end for you?
Let's hope it never stops. I just love this. This is beautiful. I love it.
From 10 countries, 14 different mechanical combinations, each man with more than 750 horsepower under his right foot. The green flag waves, and we are racing. Greg Moore in the blue car will look for the inside line into 1. Andre Ribeiro is wheel to wheel with him. We're going to go 2 wide on lap 1. Lola trying to get back.
Now see what's happened with Art Marty. He held up Zanardi, and look at this. Greg Moore making a dive down the inside. That was all because Alex Zanardi had to lift off a little bit and go around the outside of turn 4.
Moore's gained a little bit. Watch 4. You got 3 laps to go. Moore's gaining.
Check out, that was Father Mario telling Michael, bring it home. There is Moore, who is right there working traffic. Moore absolutely flying through 3 and 4. They'll come off the turn, nose to tail. Greg Moore looking for a way by. He's within a car length, but he won't get it done. Michael Andretti comes through.
Very good. Very good.
A year ago, we had a big spin coming down to the green flag here at Rio, but it looks like a clean start. And the cars are 4 and 5 wide as they head for one. Look at Tony Kanaan, the rookie, come up to take the lead in one. But the gap remains under a second. 5 laps to go next time across the stripe.
Now this helps Greg. This helps Greg right there because that car is slowing up Alex. Alex had to lift coming off. Greg Moore's alongside. Go down the inside.
Oh, no, what do you
Look
do
at
if you're
this.
Art Meyer in that yellow Lola? He's got the race leader sandwiching him. Oh! And Moore around the outside into one. Oh, he makes it. Oh, Zanardi's up high. Can he hold it?
No, he got out on the gray. He couldn't do anything. Greg Moore did an incredible move.
And kudos to Alex Zanardi for keeping that car under control and off the concrete. There will be 4 laps to go next time by Zanardi, suddenly second. Is he close enough? There's Mark Blundell moving very slowly, letting the race leaders take the corner first.
He took it in there deep, but I don't think he has enough.
Zanardi back on the throttle, but I don't think he'll do it. Greg Moore, sudden victory, the 3rd of his career. Zanardi second, and the celebration breaks out in the Forsyth Racing pits.
This team, I think I saw a tear being wiped away. That was high drama.
That's what we came for. Can't say enough about Greg and this team. Just overwhelmed at this point.
What were you thinking when he made that move with about 4 laps to go? Art Meyer was in the middle of the sandwich. Greg kept peeking and found a way to make that pass for the lead. Did you think he could pull it off?
Yes, we told him to go ahead and try it. We've been conserving fuel for the last 15 laps, and we got into the window where we would be okay, and we told him to go for it.
Oh, the emotion of victory lane. Nothing replaces it. Father, son, Rick and Greg Moore embracing here. And Greg Moore, I guess racing can't get any more exciting than what you showed us over the last 10 miles or so.
That was really exciting. I mean, we knew we had a good shot, but, you know, Alex was awfully quick down the straightaway. We were a bit quicker than him under braking, and that's all it was. He had a little bubble coming out of 4, and he took the inside. I took the outside and passed a couple guys that way, and I mean, good job for the guys. We were back in 11th place. They gave me a pit stop, got me up to like 3rd or 4th, and they did an unreal job. I mean, what a great way to leave Brazil.
And now with Adrian Fernandez and Jimmy Vasser on the front row, they come around to face Jim Swental with the green flag. 500 miles, 250 laps ahead of them.
We found out in later years when Zanardi and Jimmy got together, they told us the whole story, but they were working as teammates at Michigan, and they were sort of helping tow each other, and they were, before the race, they were so confident they were going to win that they figured out a way to divvy up the prize money, that they could get more of the money and more of the win bonus, and basically get Chip's portion of it too.
Zanardi and Vasser behind him. It's Pruitt, Moore, Bobby Rahal in there, Richie Hearn,
And look at
Michael
Greg Moore
Andretti.
in the blue car.
Yep.
He's coming right down along Jimmy Vasser.
Close.
So they'd done this whole intricate deal that they thought they had won, because who could beat the two of them? Well, they didn't sort of really factor the kid from Maple Ridge.
Here goes Moore. Moore going for the lead around Jimmy Vasser.
And even over the roar of the engines, you can hear this huge crowd with a giant roar as Moore goes on top.
And here comes Jimmy. He's coming back around the outside.
Pruitt down low for 3rd. Oh, Zanardi has still got his foot in it.
And look at this. This looks like the first lap of the race.
White flag for Jimmy Vasser. Zanardi attacking for 3rd. Make that 2nd. Oh, will they go 3 wide? No.
Is this a ploy by Jimmy Vasser to back off a little bit, get Greg Moore trapped, and see if he can snooker him on the last lap? Look at Jimmy coming.
Here comes Zanardi. Does he have the horsepower despite that smoke from the back of the car? Greg Moore draws to a couple of car lengths away, and he will win the US 500.
And he outdueled the pair of them on the last lap, and the tow was massive. It was like a 15-20 mile an hour tow you could get on those cars. He outdueled them both, pulled away, wins the race.
More than your share of problems. Now you've battled back. Jerry Forsyth and company, they're going to congratulate you now, but I want to talk about those last couple of laps. That was intense.
Wow. That's all I can say. Thanks. Oh, just the players, guys, gave me great pit stops all day. I mean, we stalled the car twice in the pits. We had a bit of a mechanical or electronic problem there, but we bounced back from it. We knew we had a good car. It was just a question there right at the end. And, you know, both the Ganassi cars were awfully fast, but we just managed to get them on that last lap going into one.
You know, everybody says, and you've heard it, I know many times, that patience is so important with a 500-mile race. How much patience did you have to practice today?
None. It was flat out from the beginning to the end. I mean, you know, we knew that the Mercedes would be, you know, reliable enough. It's just a question of...
He was so happy to have done that, and it really burst the bubble of both Donardi and Jimmy.
Our first guest is a not bad-looking 23-year-old. This is the same person who wrote the Snowflake intro. Our first guest is a not bad-looking 23-year-old championship race car driver. He's the youngest and most promising driver on the circuit. Please welcome the fastest man from Maple Ridge, BC, Greg Moore. Greg Moore, ladies and gentlemen. Yes. Thanks.
Thanks.
Oh, yeah, they know who you are.
Really, I guess.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, you don't get the lack of response I get when I walk out. They know who you are. So you're from Maple Ridge, British Columbia.
I am.
Home of a lot of famous athletes.
Yes, Cam Neely, Larry Walker, myself, Brendan Morrison's guy I went to high school with, just signed with New Jersey, so quite a few of us.
Yeah, we got 10 minutes. Relax.
Okay.
Either that or you're very conceited. You skip through the names of the other famous people.
Well, I don't know. There's a bunch of guys that are just working their way up to get there.
Well, what's the population of this town?
Just over 30,000.
Wow, and all these people have come from there. That's quite a per capita deal, if you're into that kind of thing.
If you're into sports.
Yeah. Oh, I'm into sports, buddy.
You look like it.
Larry. Believe me, I am. Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes I, too, like to exercise by driving for hours and hours.
Touche. Touche, you got me. Okay.
Now, do you still live in Maple Ridge?
Yeah, I still live at home.
Live at home?
Live at home with my family.
With your family?
With my family.
Yeah, did your dad ever let you take the car?
He used to.
You still live at home with your parents?
I still live at home with my parents.
That's a great thing.
Well, you can call it living. I'm only there for about 100 days a year, so.
Okay.
Because we're on the road so much.
This is no hassle to them at all?
No.
So is your board broken up over the period of time, or Church of the Flat Rate?
Actually, it's great because I don't get to pay rent there. All my food paid for, everything, so it's pretty nice.
Now, you broke Paul Tracy's record.
I did.
Yeah.
When
how many did you win?
It was an Indy Lights, which is kind of like the AAA series of car racing, and I won 10 of 12 races in 1995.
10 out of 12. Now, you brought a clip with you tonight at one of your races, and
yes,
it's a very.
actually,
I saw it this afternoon. Very exciting. Go ahead, though.
There's two actual races in it. The first one is me at Miami racing with Christian Fittipaldi and Alex Zanardi, and then the second one is when I won at Rio de Janeiro in Brazil in May. So it's maybe we'll roll the tape, see what we see.
Feel free to do a narrative over it.
Okay. This is me and Christian. It doesn't look that fast, but that's like over about 160 miles an hour right there.
Are you the one in the lead?
I'm the blue car. The red car there is Alex Zanardi. And he just won the championship, so I can beat him every once in a while.
We sound like two girls discussing the race. Oh, you're the blue car?
I'm in the blue car. It's the blue car and the red car, and I'm in the blue car. This is at Rio de Janeiro. I'm in second, he's in first, and just, see, there's a couple inches there. And there I go, taking the checkered flag.
Incredible. Incredible.
Thank you.
Can you get reprimanded for that kind of thing, for going, cutting the guy, well, for lack of a better term, cutting the guy off? That's what you did.
Not for that one there, but I have been reprimanded this year. It
really?
Was in Portland.
Now, was this your dad or race officials?
No, race officials. See, Dad can do the personal stuff, but the officials actually slap the fines on you. And
they slap fines on you for that kind of thing?
Yeah, not for that, because that one we didn't actually touch. But there was one in June where I made a mistake. I qualified really far back, and I thought on the start that I'd make some positions, and I went from 14th to 2nd on the start, but also took 4 other guys out of the race at the same time.
Now, when that kind of thing happens, afterwards, these 4 guys walk up and go, oh, well. Do they get upset with you?
Yeah,
Do you ever go to
there's-
these bars afterwards, or
No.
you know, get into tips with these guys when you?
No, I mean, I've come close once to being in an actual fight. A guy tried to pull me out of the car by my helmet, and cooler heads prevailed, and he got a $10,000 fine, and I got away with just a pat on the back saying, "Good job, you didn't get in a fight."
No kidding.
Yeah.
Wow. Now, what did the guy do? Did he put it on autopilot? Just reached over?
Now, we were both in a mangled mess in the concrete fence, and his car had no right side on it. My car had no left side, and we're kind of parked together like a
That's incredible.
like a jigsaw puzzle. And he was, wanted to let his feelings known to me, I guess.
Now, somebody was telling me a funny story this afternoon. You were feeling a little under the weather this year during a particular race. What happened to you?
Yeah, that was in Cleveland this year. Actually, the race before the Molson Indy here in Toronto, and I had a stomach virus and strep throat, and I really was under the weather. Hadn't eaten for 3 days, and doing about 130 miles an hour in a qualifying session on Saturday afternoon, and going along, and I just shifted to 6th gear, 130, 140 miles an hour, hitting a lot of bumps. And you know what it's like when you have a stomach virus and you're getting shaken around a lot. It was a bad thing. I actually threw up inside my helmet. Yeah.
Now, this is a pretty high-tech vehicle, Aaron. Do you have little wipers inside?
It's an amazing thing because at that speed, 130, 140, because there's so much air going over it, it just sucked everything right out the bottom of the helmet and blew over the inside of the car.
I guess if you were a British driver, you'd say you aspirated in your mask. That would be
You can
a nice
say that.
way to put it. That's incredible. Well, I wish you luck. You're going to
Thank you.
California soon?
Yeah, going to California for a race in Fontana, and there's $1 million to win it, so keeping my
$1
fingers
million
crossed.
bucks?
Yep.
You
Knock
could win
on
$1
wood.
million? Jeez, that's enough to get your own house. Good luck, Paul. Thanks. Thanks, buddy. Stick around for my good friend, comedian John Wing, ladies and gentlemen.
So happy to have done that, and it really burst the bubble of both Donardi and Jimmy. Jimmy got his own back, though, in Fontana, because to win Fontana in '98 was $1 million.
Jim Swintel holds the green flag, waves it. We're underway. 500 miles for $1 million.
I'll wait and see. I've got the fastest car out here, and I'm not worried about it.
Amazing to see Brian Herta and Tony Kanaan getting lapped this early in this 500-mile race.
Right rear tire.
I spoke.
Right, Danny. The reason is, wow, that was fast. 13-1. Remember, the pits here are concrete, and they're very slippery. He came in a little too hot, and that was a nice job of using the brakes for Greg Moore.
Honored our winner at the rate of $4,000 per lap. Well, it has come down to this. 1 lap to go, and when we go green, it will be 4 laps. Call it 4 laps at $250,000 apiece.
Now he's coming out turn 2, stands on the gas, and just turns it sideways and smacks it up against the fence.
Look at how
You run the
slowly.
same risk as slow as they're going right now. Same thing.
Don't jump on that power.
Believe me, they've got their foot on the brake right now, and one on the gas, trying to hold it down there and spool it up. You saw Zanardi's car
twitch,
on the
yeah.
outside get a little twitch.
Here we go.
By going now, see the green isn't out yet, so they cannot pass him even if they have a run on him. So by going early, he's able to build ahead of Steve. The starter still hasn't displayed the green flag.
Now the green is out. Let's see if any of them time it. Vassar's making a bid. Vassar takes the lead. Green on right side. Zanardi almost touches wheels with Moore. The 2 target teammates are first and second.
And you saw Zanardi had to lift off a little bit when he went into 1, held up more a little bit, gave that Jimmy that little break. That might be enough.
Here comes Moore. Here comes Moore. Zanardi low, Moore up high.
And this is helping Jimmy Vassar get away.
No, he's got it.
No, Vassar's out in front by about 5 car lengths. They come off the turn now. Can he hold on? Can he hold on for $1 million? Yes, Jimmy Vassar with his 5th in the air wins $1 million at the 500. Crews swarming onto the racetrack now. Victory lane right across the pit straight. And now Jimmy Vassar heads back out. I guess he'll make a lap.
Jimmy won the race. Greg finished second. They got 60 grand. And there must have been some Scotsmen because he was all about the money.
Yeah, I'm sure it was a lot of
Truly
Scotsmen.
reached his full potential, which is enormous. Let's take a closer look at him. Here's our Gary Gerald.
Well, certainly when it comes to preseason favorites in the run for the championship, you cannot discount Greg Moore. And I don't know if that puts pressure on your shoulders, but I don't want to talk about that right now. I want to talk about the engine department. Mercedes-Benz is trying to play a bit of catch-up, it would seem, against your Honda rivals in particular. In preseason testing, do you get a feel as to whether or not you're going to be able to step up a notch this year?
Well, I mean, you always kind of wonder, because you do winter testing by yourself, and you hear rumors what other people are doing, and then you know what you're doing. So really, once you come to spring training, and the first couple of races is really where you see what the work you've done over the winter, if it's paid off or not. But from driving the car in the last few days of testing that we've done, I think Mercedes has made some significant gains. I think more on the road course and street course side of their engine performance. But I'm cautiously optimistic about this season.
There have been preseason polls that say Greg Moore is the man to beat. Do you welcome that kind of a challenge?
Well, I wouldn't say I'm the man. The fans said I was the man, but I think what happened is my mom must have done a lot of voting on the internet. But no, I mean, that was nice that the fans voted me that. But the most important thing for me is that we're out there and other teams are seeing us as a championship contender, and we come here to Homestead where we had such a great race last year, and I think that championship for us is definitely something that we're looking at.
The wins that you've achieved over the last 2 seasons obviously are a tremendous lift in the learning curve. As you approach a new season, is there more confidence for you than there was a year ago at this time?
I think probably a little bit more, just because I'm a bit more mature as a race car driver. I mean, socially I'm still the same guy, but in the race car I think I'm a bit of a different person. I'm maybe a little bit more willing now to sit back and wait until the last 15 or 20 laps, where before I think I was a bit too aggressive sometimes at the beginning, and like Portland last year, making a huge mistake at the beginning. But the thing about being young guys that you have to admit that you made those mistakes, which I always openly do, and learn from them. If you don't learn from them, then something's wrong. But I think I've learned from every mistake that I've seen to be made in this series so far.
Greg Moore, the pole sitter. Fernandez on the outside. Moore's teammate, Carpentier, just behind him. They come off the corner. They look for the green flag. And here we go. The season is now underway. There you see the interval. First to second, Moore to Andretti. Jimmy Vasser just behind this.
The only thing Michael Andretti can do at this point, Paul, is to make sure that he's got everything in his control.
Greg Moore now using every inch of this race course to keep speed and momentum up with 2 laps to go. He is the leader, followed by Michael Andretti, the winner of the past 2 races here at Homestead. And as he comes off the corner, Michael closes. Oh, what a great gamble they've taken, and it looks like, in fact, it may pay off. Greg Moore up off of turn 3, now off of 4. Looking at the checkered flag. The gamble pays off. Greg Moore takes his 5th career win. His 4th on an oval.
Greg will be up here momentarily, and we'll have an opportunity to get a word with him. And Greg, this is one of those ideal ways to start the season. I don't imagine you could be happier, but what we're wondering, how much of a gamble was it in terms of the fuel in the last few laps? Were you nervous?
I was running the leanest that I could for a while, and then they kept telling me to bring it off. And, my guys, the whole players team, I mean, Alex deserves a big pat in the head for this one. He's our fuel guy, and, I mean, what an awesome job, for everybody here. Just first race of the year, this place, almost like it owed us something, and we finally got it. It's a good job for everybody.
Have you been feeling any kind of pressure, because so many people have said you and your team are top championship caliber material for 1999?
Well, I think this just shows that we're going to be good on the ovals. It's just a question now what happens on the street and the road circuits, but I firmly expect once we get to Long Beach, we'll surprise a lot of people. But, what a perfect day. I was a little worried there because Dario was running so strong, but then he came in, he wouldn't gamble on that fuel, and I had confidence in my guys. It's just a great day for everyone here at the players team.
Any time on the racetrack, did you encounter difficulty, apprehension, something that maybe kind of brought your heart up close to your throat?
The first stint with my car was extremely loose, and all I could do was just hang on. I kept Pat behind me, but he was awfully strong, and too bad for him. It could have been a good players one too, but most importantly is I won.
Indeed, and what a way to start a championship chase. You only got, 19 more to go.
Exactly.
There was some news as Roger Penske shook up the kart world, announcing that Gilles de Ferran and Greg Moore will be his drivers for the next 3 years, starting in 2000. But where's that leave Roger and Unser Jr.?
People have said, is Roger Penske getting tired of racing, or are we going to get out of racing? And obviously, we've struggled over the last 2 or 3 years, with our open wheel team. Al Unger and I had a conversation back in May talking about the future for Al, the future for myself and the team. And both of us said, let's look out for other opportunities for each of us.
I've been talking to some other teams and so on. So, you know, by far, we're not leaving racing or anything like that. You know, I love it very much and so on. And so the one biggest thing I want to do is give Roger his 100th win.
On the line, getting ready for a later qualifying attempt. Of course, the big news is away from the racetrack regarding your future. Was this at all a difficult decision to arrive at, to end this relationship with players and to move over to the Penske camp?
Oh, it was extremely difficult. I mean, you know, being involved with players the last 5 years, I mean, everyone here is like family to me. I mean, you know, I know most of the guys' wives, I know a lot of their kids, and so it's, you know, kind of like breaking up with a family. It was real tough that way, but, you know, I looked at how intense and how excited Roger is and how focused he is on trying to change things around for his team, and you know, just by hiring Gilles and I think that kind of shows his commitment to it, and I'm really excited about our chances coming up in the future.
Remember that Greg Moore was supposed to be fourth in this lineup. He didn't take the flag. We heard from Neil Mickelwright of his problems, but Jan, you've tracked him down.
Yes, in fact, Greg Moore has just stepped out of his coach, and you can tell by looking at his hand that it is severely injured. Greg, first of all, what happened?
I was on the way to morning practice this morning, and just come out of my coach on the way up, and I was on my motor scooter, and I was going along probably 10 or 12 miles an hour or something like that, and someone was coming at me in a pickup truck, and I guess she decided to turn into a parking spot where I was occupying at the time, and she hit the bike, and you know, I went down, and unfortunately when I didn't want to hit my head, so I put my hand out on the ground, and I've broken a bone inside my hand, one of them, the fourth metacarpal. So it's frustrating, but you know, the CART medical doctors and my guys are working hand in hand on making a brace for me for tomorrow. So we'll get out this afternoon, do a couple laps probably, and then we'll see how we do tomorrow, you know, if I can grip the steering wheel or not.
So do you think that you'll get a good indication? I mean, a 500-mile race is brutal for a guy who's in good shape. And I can say from personal experience, I've broken that same bone. That seems very optimistic in my view.
Well, it's optimistic, but you know, I guess with being young, sometimes you do some things that probably aren't the smartest things out there. But I've got to go to Indianapolis on Tuesday and get a plate put on it anyway, so I can't do any more damage to it if I last the whole 500 miles. So it's just a question of if I can withstand the pain, and I know I'm going to get a couple shots for it in the morning tomorrow. And you know, but the most important thing is that you know it's safe out there, and you know, if I'm able to grip the steering wheel with no problems, then you know, if there's a bit of pain, well, I'll just try and endure through it.
All right, we hope to see you out there. Thanks.
It's a beautiful, crystal clear day in Southern California. We're at California Speedway for the final race of the CART FedEx Championship Series, the 500. And then the Target Chip Ganassi team in formation. Say if a guy screws it up and misses the ship, that's his problem. And here we go. We're ready. The final 500 miles of the season. Look at the move to the inside. Look at Pappas, Target Chip Ganassi both come up into the second position. And they start to battle Michael Andretti comes around. Michael looking for racing room to the inside. Pappas takes the lead. Scott Pruitt fades badly onto the backstretch. 4 wide now, heading for turn 3. And look at it, he just walked away from the field when he picked up the throttle. And Montoya now makes a move on Pappas. Montoya working for that championship. Wants to get at the front of the field. Wants to get away from Franchitti. Oh! Oh, an enormous crash. Oh my God. A terrible crash. Yellow comes out again. We're going to hold on identifying this car because there are 2 cars like it in the field. We want to assure ourselves. They now report it is Greg Moore. There's his teammate, Patrick Carpentier. Greg Moore was hit on his motor scooter in the paddock yesterday morning by a car. A lot of scrapes, a lot of bruises, broke some bones in his right hand. They built up a whole system out of carbon fiber so that he could drive. He ran a practice drive late yesterday after the qualifying. They cleared him to start in the back. And now this horrendous crash. We wait for word from CART officials what the story is at the crash site. For an update now from the medical center, here's Gary Gerald.
Dr. Steve Olvey, who heads up the safety team, is here. What can you tell us, Doctor, about Greg?
Greg has severe head and internal injuries. He's being sent to Loma Linda Hospital for further resuscitative efforts. Dr. Jeff Grange, who's the chief emergency doctor here in this area, is with him in the helicopter and is going to report back to me soon.
I hope Greg's feeling okay because he's a close friend of mine, and I heard he got hurt pretty bad. And all our hearts go out to the Moore family. We hope he feels good. Thank you, Paul. Thank you.
Gentlemen from the staff here and Dr. Steve Olvey have come out in an announcement for us. Dr. Olvey?
Gary, I regret to announce that driver Greg Moore has been pronounced dead at Loma Linda Hospital. He died of massive head and internal injuries. He was pronounced dead at 21 minutes after 1 o'clock.
Thank you very much.
Well, that certainly was our concern. From Maple Ridge, Canada, Greg Moore, 24 years old, a promising young rookie when he came to the series, the 95 Lights champion. His whole future ahead of him. Won at Homestead this year, was going to move over to drive to Roger Penske's team next year. Our condolences to his friends and family.
Juan, I don't know how to ask you how you can enjoy such a career highlight in a moment when there's this deep sorrow, and I know you just find out about it. Can you tell us what kind of thoughts you have at this time?
No, it's really bad. It's really bad. It's happened again this year. Greg was a great guy. I'm really sorry for his family and everything. He didn't deserve to die.
It's so hard because Greg was such a good friend of ours. We've been racing for a while, and we have shared so many good moments inside and outside the racetrack. And this is a tragedy for all of us.
I started across finish line, and actually I thought I won. And Bob came on the radio and said, "I have a very bad news to tell you." And I had no idea. And no idea. And it's no idea.
I think everybody that's ever driven one of these cars can tell you that maybe he's just not burdened with things anymore, and not not gonna worry about these senseless things that we do, worrying about shock absorbers and wings and rules and fights, and our sport seems, I think, fairly insignificant in times like this.
Obviously, a situation such as today's is one that
you can't possibly prepare for. There are no prepared speeches. On behalf of the team and of our partners and players, we would like to express our sincere sympathies to Greg's family. He was a fine young man, a fine individual, and somebody that had become a very close family member of our team, and we will miss him greatly.
Greg was one of the new young tigers of champ car racing. As I said a few minutes ago, clearly and unequivocally a champion of tomorrow. He was everything that is good about this sport. Talented, committed, courageous, fit. Everything that's good, everything that symbolizes what champ car racing stands for, I think was embodied in Greg Moore. So it is a very, very profound loss indeed. He's a young man, a great talent, as his dad said, and I was chatting with him in the hospital. He really loved life, loved having fun. Really was looking forward to the race. He was a competitor. He wanted to race.
It is with profound sadness that on behalf of California Speedway and International Speedway Corporation that we extend our heartfelt sympathies to the Moore family, to the team members of the Forsyth team, and to Greg's fans around the world. This is the first fatality that has occurred in the 3-season history of California Speedway, and without question, this is the saddest day in the history of the Speedway.
Everybody knows what a great loss it is, a loss period, let alone the fact that he was just a great young man and had a great future ahead of him, and already had achieved quite a few things in a very short period of time. And you know, I hate this sport when it's like this.
You know, I don't know what to say. I mean, you know, the guy's a great guy. We hung out, we did things together, a few things together, and sat next to him in the driver's meeting yesterday, and just, I'm shocked. I mean, I'm just totally shocked. And it hasn't hit me, I don't think.
It is incomprehensible in Canada, but it's incomprehensible in the world, especially here in the kart community. Personally, for me, Greg Moore was one of my students when I taught as a racing instructor, and we actually together taught Greg how to drive on ovals, and we know that Greg Moore was really the master of the ovals. But I think it was probably said best or not said by Adrian Fernandez, who won this race. He came into the jubilation of the crew, patting him on the head for a job well done, and when he learned of Greg Moore, the tears just flowed from his eyes, as they did from so many people up and down pit road here, and he declined to comment and was sequestered back with so many of the other drivers, just in shock that something like this could happen, because Greg was so popular.
Devastated. I just never thought that would ever happen to him. He's such a great person, you know.
It's just really shocking. He actually went to school at Meadow Ridge. My son went there, and it's just really saddened to hear that it occurred. It was a tragic loss.
I think he was a great influence on the people here. He's very friendly. He's been here for years, as far as I know. I've only been here 4 years myself, but everybody talks very highly of this man, and something like this, I just can't believe something could happen like this.
Well, he was, you know, we had gotten to know each other over the last few years, you know, and turned out to be really good friends. I mean, I'm trying really just to remember the good times and not about what happened on the weekend, and it's difficult, you know. It's been a difficult night for everybody, all the drivers and the people involved in kart, and I'm sure all the fans, and you know, it's hard to put into words, really.
For Canadian auto racing fans, there was a natural bond between the two of you just because you are both Canadian. Can you expand on that, what it meant to the two of you? Was there a friendly rivalry there? Was there a special sort of bond in kart because of your background?
Well, I think, you know, Greg and I both had a very, you know, healthy relationship in terms of racing. We were always fair with each other, but, you know, I think probably one of the fondest memories really is when I first heard of Greg, when he burst on the scene in the early 90s. I was at that time racing for Penske, and I picked up a newspaper and saw this article about this kid from BC, and he was going to be the next Formula One driver, and you know, it's just, he was kind of a slimmer version of me, I guess. You know, he was kind of like a clone. He had the same kind of haircut and round glasses, and you know, he was talking about in this article that, you know, he wanted to get to be an Indycar driver and race against myself and Scott Goodyear. And that was really one of the first memories I had of him, thinking, hey, what's this guy doing? He's trying to be like me or something. But as the years went by, we got to be closer and closer, and I saw how much talent he had. He had more talent in his pinky finger than most drivers have and could ever have. And it's a tough way to lose him, but he was out there doing what he loved to do. And the last memory I have of him was on the grid. We talked on the grid before the race, and he used to always kind of, I don't know if he was teasing or messing with me. He used to call me Legend. He would call me Ledge for short. And he said, hey, Ledge, I'll see you up front halfway through the race. And that was it, really.
There's a temptation for many, perhaps for yourself, to ask questions of how this might have happened. I know a lot of people have wondered about his hand injury the day before, and others wondering about the rear deflector and how that might affect the stability of the cars. Now there have been some complaints, and also about the track. Do you ask any questions now knowing what you do, or do you and other racers assume that this is just one of the hazards of your profession, something you all risk when you go out there?
I think really the drivers, he was a driver, and he was, one of the best at it, and he wouldn't have wanted to get out of the car. I know I wouldn't. I know that he had a lot of determination and wasn't ready to give up or stand down. He wanted to go out there and try to win that last race for Jerry Forsyth and players, and could have done it very easily. Those type of tracks, he was, for his age, he had much more knowledge, or a sense of knowledge, almost like a Rick Mears or an Emerson Fittipaldi. He was only 24, but when it came to super speedways, he far outweighed me in terms of, I guess, smarts or how to go about a 500-mile race. And he was coming to the front and trying to win the race, and that's what you've got to remember him as, a guy who was out there giving it everything he had. And that's the best way that I can explain it. He was a competitor, and he was out there competing and wouldn't give up.
Paul, one final thing. I know you still must be in shock over what happened. Do you see your sport any differently today, and do you think this might in any way affect the way you approach your sport in the future?
Well, this is probably the toughest situation I've ever had to go through as a driver. I've seen some guys go over the the last few years, but never one as close to home, and it's it's hard to deal with,
Paul Tracy, thank you very much for your time.
That everyone in this room does not know already. Supremely talented, successful, clearly a champion of tomorrow. But Greg's success was more than just as a race car driver. He was well liked by his peers and enjoyed an enthusiasm for life that made him one of the founding members of kart's infamous Brat Pack. It is with a deep and profound sense of loss that I once again, as I did yesterday on your behalf, extend our deepest sympathy to Greg's family, to his friends, and to his teammates.
My heart goes in sympathy to Greg's family and loved ones, and especially when here, especially Dario, Tony, Max, John Potter, and the medical team. I mean, Greg was a very good friend of all of ours and part of our family. Greg's memory and everything that made him such a great guy will live on in all of us forever.
Well and very well. Have to hopefully come together and celebrate his life, and we'll carry on with his legacy like other great British Columbians, Terry Fox and people such as that. And Greg Moore was just an outstanding Canadian, an outstanding citizen of the world.
We say goodbye today to a great friend, wonderful role model, just a terrific human, and it's just a very, very sad time.
important moment because it's your last drive for Hogan, and Carl Hogan stood on the scoring stand, and the entire team gave you a standing ovation as you climbed from the car.
I told everybody when you got here to do the best race of their life, and I was doing my best race of my life, so we show everybody that we're capable to do well. We show everybody that we are a great team. Unfortunately, things doesn't turn out the right way, but well, that's what I was looking for. Do a great race for the last time for this team, and look for what's going to happen next year.
And we look forward to wherever you're going to be driving next year. I even heard Derek Walker's name in the mix as of last night. Might that be accurate?
I tell you, as soon as everybody not hearing anything, I'll be ready.
Okay, non-committal. Jan?
I think when you see Greg, and what we all saw in him was a tremendous talent. There's certain guys during different eras and generations that they got it. And he was a guy I think we'd all agree he had incredible talent. We knew that it was just a matter of time he'd be a great champion, multiple champion, Indy 500 champion. He was the guy, and we all saw it. Off the track, equally as cool. That's what we really loved about him. He brought the paddock together, these guys together. He was just all around just an awesome guy and an awesome talent, and I think we all appreciated it and enjoyed it.
You know, the thing about Greg, you know, for me, as I told you, like, you know, it was, it really, one of the reasons why I really loved him is the fact that he taught me something that I didn't know. You know, I remind you this, you know, I came from Europe, I was racing in F1, grew up over there, came over here, and on my first trip to Australia, I have this guy sitting on my side who actually talked to me. And then I went like, that's not possible. Like, you know, where I came from, people the race car driver didn't talk to each other, you know, unless there was something bad. Or
It's your number one enemy.
And it really changed my approach to the sport. You know, it made me look the fact that you could have be super tough on the track, but that didn't mean that you couldn't share common, you know, feeling or drink a beer after the race or doing
or
something
2
like
or 10
or 50 or 200. And you know, to me, it really changed the way I looked at stuff. And he was, as I said, you know, he was the biggest reason, you know, for it. And I cannot thank him enough. And as Dario said, you know, the number don't stack up. You know, when you look at the number, it's actually funny what you just said. You know, I didn't even know that he only won 5 races. To me, in my book, he won 50. And the way he drove, you know, like it's actually, I'm really surprised about what you just told me. That 5, I went like, really? 5? And but I guess that you cannot measure someone just from the number standpoint. You know, the guy was immense on and off the track, and I really believe that he's one of those guys that it happens once in a generation. You know, like I don't think you can really replicate anymore what happened in the past. But to repeat what we were saying, you know, what I really love about the party that we throw at Portland was that I enjoyed the fact that the younger generation, the Rosenquist, the Veach, they were able to
Jack Harvey, Ferrucci.
Exactly.
Yep.
You know, all these young guys. I kind of felt that in one way, that night we did what Greg did with me, that day when we flew down to Australia, to say, hey guys, yeah, maybe you guys can knock each other off on the track, but you see,
we can be brothers off.
And I hope that stuck in their brain, because it did in mine.
Greg's bus though was like the hangout spot of all the buses, because there was a group of guys that had buses. It was me.
There were not many, right?
You, Tony had one, Robbie had one.
I don't think you did.
Herta had one. Herta had one, but
Tony had the Charlie Sheen bus, didn't he?
Literally,
oh no,
hundreds of hours were spent after everything was done in Greg's bus, playing that fucking PlayStation with the fucking rally game, or Gran Turismo. And I was pretty decent at it when it was like before PlayStation 2 came out, when you had to play with your thumbs and do the steering with your thumbs. But as soon as that joystick controller came out with the finger throttle, I was junk. And you guys would lay down these times on that goddamn rally game where you go through the dirt and through the trees.
Yes.
I would play that damn thing for literally 5 hours a night, 6 hours a night. We'd be there till 11 o'clock at night, every night of the weekend.
I remember.
With none of us looking at data. Chalice was there. Robbie was there.
Beat each other.
Yeah, trying to shave hundredths of a second.
As the driver who took over for Greg at Penske, how different do you think your career would be today if you were still with us?
Don't know. You know, destiny is something that you can't predict.
Elio Castroneves has won the Indianapolis 500.
Elio Castroneves played the economy game and wins the 86.
But I tell you what, things happen for a reason, and God always have a plan, so you got to trust Him.
Race day. And on a day filled with dramatic twists and turns, this day will go to Dario Franchitti. His first victory in 2 seasons and his second here in Vancouver.
He becomes a 3-time winner of the biggest race in the world. Elio Castroneves wins at Indy.
It's Hinchcliffe.
The mayor is on pole. And that's right. The mayor of his own town, he calls Hinchtown.
His town just went way up on the scale.
Welcome to the 4-time club, Elio Castroneves! That is awesome! Spider-Man is back at the Speedway!
Well, it's hard to say, you know, someone that you lose at a young age like that. He was a great driver, one that we thought could come to our team and give us a lot of success, and with that he'd have success. So to me, it's just hard to say. I mean, he was a good young man, and you know, we were ready for him to be a driver for us. And you know, obviously the tragic accident on the big oval was he lost his life, so we lost a great friend.
Would he have used number 99 on your team or number 3 like Elio used?
Well, I think he probably would have used number 2. We like number 2, and I think he'd have liked number 2 also.
It's really a shame that Greg didn't get to see his whole career out, because I think he would have been, you know, one of the best in the record books.
I knew 1998 was going to be my last year racing, so I met at Michigan a couple nights before the Michigan 500 in '98. I had dinner with Greg's father, and you know, told him I wanted Greg to drive for us. And I think by that time maybe they had, it was either 98 or 99, but anyway, I think by that time they'd already kind of done their deal with Penske.
Did you ever try to get him into the Target car? If so, what was it like trying to convince him to switch teams?
Yes, in fact, you know, we had some discussions with him, and we were just getting to know Greg when he passed away. Really, he was obviously a Canadian and driving for Players at the time, which backed a lot of Canadian drivers, and so as I recall, I think you know, at the time he was going to drive for Penske the following year, and you know, it came down to him with us or Penske, and I think at that time he decided to drive for Penske.
It's tough to answer in a way that can be perceived in the right way, because normally when you talk about somebody that is not longer with us, everybody has good things to say, right? They tend to say, oh, that guy was so special, but Greg was really special, was a real fighter, a guy with who I often had arguments, because we were made out of the same material, basically. We were both hot heads. We would both argue for the same square inch of circuit, and when two cars are pointing in the same direction outfield, you have wheel banging and all this sort of stuff. But nevertheless, it was a loyal opponent, and very respectful of the most important rules, and it was a pleasure to race it with him. Even if most of the time when you were racing with him, you would come away beaten, and because he was a strong driver. And I remember in particular in '98, after the season was over, and I had already announced basically that I would go and drive in Formula One. We were playing pool together one night, and we already had a couple of glasses of wine, so we were, let's say, not drunk, but more happy than you are normally. He turned to me and he just, with this grin in his face, and he said, "You bastard, you going away. I would have had you next year, I'm sure." And you could really tell that he was absolutely sincere. He was missing the opportunity to challenge me once more. Yeah, this is the type of guy he was.
He was one that you could trust, that you could run next to, and so he always had a great attitude. Every time I saw him at the racetrack, he was doing really well.
You're one of the few drivers who got to drive against him in his one appearance at Indianapolis Motor Speedway in an IROC car. I was hoping you could share some memories that come to mind when you think of him on and off the track.
Well, I got the chance to interact with him, and just a really down-to-earth, easy to talk to kind of guy. When you meet race car drivers, even though I was a race car driver, when you meet other race car drivers or you meet other athletes, even in any other form of sport, you hope that they're just normal, easygoing people that are easy to talk to, right? You just hope that they are, and he was. He was just a very, very nice guy, and I appreciated that about him more than anything. Great race car driver, great accomplishments. He had a ton of friends. I think that says a lot about a person's character when they're well liked, especially by their peers, the people they compete against, because that gets very tricky and tough at times when you're out there racing on the track and they're sort of your enemy on the track, but yet you can be very good friends off the track. That meant that he was valued as an individual, and he had great character. So I found that to all be true when I got a chance to spend time talking to him.
Fun guy. I mean, extremely liked to joke around like I do. I mean, we had similar personalities. Very approachable and crazy fun. We had a lot of fun. I mean, we had a lot of stories. Some of them I can't really disclose, but I think the best one when we used to go on vacation together to Australia for a week and a half before the race, and we went boating, jet skiing, and bike riding, which we couldn't even do, like motorbikes, and it was. He was definitely gone too soon. He was a dear friend, and I miss him every day.
I think really more just his spirit. I think that's why he was somebody that, the drivers liked. He was kind of a driver's driver. He had a great attitude. He was obviously well respected for his talent, but he was also somebody that, he really rallied drivers together. He was kind of the ringmaster between a lot of those guys, hanging out and doing stuff away from the track. Before that, you didn't see a lot of drivers spending time together, and he was really one of the first guys that started getting the guys together away from the track, and that was created a sense of camaraderie. I think that's part of why his loss was felt so deeply by all the drivers and all the paddock, because he was really a beloved guy in the series.
Well, for one, he was a great friend, and it was a horrible day for us when we lost him. But he was such a competitor and a hard charger on the track, but yet behind the scenes and off the track, he was always the organizer to get everybody together to have a good time, and that's how we remember him.
It would be interesting to see what he looked like today. I see his dad all the time. I see Rick quite a lot. We're going away in August fishing together. And you watch Rick, and Rick's over 70 now, and he looks so young. So it'd be very interesting to see what Greg would look like at this point.
By now, for sure. He may be just retiring. He probably would have lost his hair by now, and maybe arm graying. But yeah, he would have had a Hall of Fame career, no doubt about it.
The things I can tell you is that I would have never imagined that racing would have built
friendship that would last forever. Because when you're out there, you're competing against other guys. But friendship like with Dario, Greg, Tony, there are things that they are embedded in my heart, and they will be here forever. So like it's something that I would have not thought that motor racing could surprise me, but it really did in this way.